Evening, everybody. This is Harold with Prestige Trucking. I have George here from HCM Compliance, and we're here to bring you our third episode, and we're going to talk a little bit about your UCR filings, and we're going to talk about the importance of your MCS-150 updates and when to do it. So this is a little bit more in George's subject, so we're just going to interview George, and he's going to give us the answers, and I'll put my input in there, how it affects on the insurance side of the business.
All right.
So George, who must comply with the UCR filing?
Well, everyone. The simple answer to that is everyone needs to comply with the UCR filing. Anytime you register for a DOT and MC number as an interstate carrier, you will need to also register with the UCR. Now, there are what they call participating states, and for example, Florida is not a participating state, but that does not mean that you do not need to register for the UCR. You still need to register in order to drive between state lines with your trucking operation. So you would then pick the next state over, which would be Georgia, and pay the fee. If you don't pay the fee, they are enforced, and if you get stopped at a weigh station, you will get a ticket, and you will have to get the UCR or keep getting tickets. So in a nutshell, everyone will need to get UCR. There are some exceptions. Interstate guys who are local in their state only do not cross state lines, which would be intrastate, are not required to follow the UCR. But those that have an MC number and across the state lines do.
Okay, so that being said, what kind of fees do you have to pay? What's involved with that?
Right.
How do they determine the fees?
Right, so the fees are going to be determined on the amount of trucks that you had put in when you registered your DOT or when you did your last MCS-150 Biennial Update. They're going to base the fee off of how many trucks you have. So, for example, if you have 0 to 1 truck, I don't have that in front of me right now, but I can put the link to the UCR.gov where you can get that information, and you'll see the different fees. Again, they're based on the amount of trucks, so depending on how many trucks you have is going to be determine the fee that you're going to pay.
The government, when they enforce it, like you said, what kind of fines are you talking about? How much, do you know what they are? Or?
Well, off the top of my head, I don't remember, but those of you who do, please leave a comment below of what you have been ticketed for. I think the last customer of ours who called and said that he got a ticket for not getting the UCR was like $160, something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. But any of you guys out there that's been ticketed, please put in a comment below what you've been ticketed before for not having it. I did find here some fees. For example, so 0 to 2 trucks, you're about $46, 3 to 5, $138, 6 to 20, $276, and so on and so forth. I'll leave the link where you can find this information. Again, this is something you can do yourself at UCR.gov. Be careful, a lot of companies out there will try to solicit and tell you that you need to do it with them, and they will charge you a fee on top of what the UCR already charges. But if you're not comfortable doing it yourself, you can always pay someone, or you can always hire our company, HCM Integrity Services, and we'll be more than happy to do it for you.
I was reading here, George, that it actually says that you can actually be put out of service pretty much not doing this UCR.
Well, the verbiage on there says you can. I up till now have not heard of anyone being put out of service. Again, anyone out there listening, if that has happened to you, please comment below and let us know if you've been put out of service for not filing UCR. Up till now, I have not have heard anyone being put out of service for that. I have heard them paying fines for it.
So the other thing is too, what if you become a multiple, or you keep doing this all the time?
Yeah, well, it says that repeated or aggravated non-compliance with UCR filings may result in legal action and even threaten your ongoing operations. So they're not clear 100% on the verbiage that as far as it goes from putting you out of service, but it seems like they're able to do that if it comes to that. Again, I haven't experienced that with any of my clients, but if anyone out there has, please provide your comments. It would be interesting to know how that happened and how you got out of it.
So, how does this work with the rest of your DOT and your filings with doing your annual or your biannual MCS-150?
Right. So after you get your DOT MC number, you register, you're active. You got to get your UCR, register that, so you can start driving out there and not having any issues. But the MCS-150 is something that we'll get into in just a bit. But to just kind of jump in there real quick, whenever you do your MCS-150 Biennial Update and you change the amount of trucks that you're running, that will affect the fee you're going to pay at the end of the year when you do your UCR again. So that's how those two get tied in together with the MCS-150 and the UCR.
So I want to talk a little bit about the MC-150 on my side of the table as it being involved with insurance and the problems I see all the time. So usually a lot of times what I see is people put everything they can imagine under cargo because every new person is our new driver, our new trucker is going to haul everything under the sun, and that's really just don't want to do that because different cargoes cost different amount of money. So for instance, if you're working in the oil fields and you're hauling our oil field equipment, insurance companies, a lot of insurance companies will shy away from that. If you're going to haul oversized vehicles and heavier equipment or overweighted vehicles, a lot of insurance companies will shy from that too as well. So those things, you want to be very careful what you want to do. If you put logs on there, logs is a big hazard. If that one rolls off, especially if you're in a big forestry type situation, it rolls over in a car, you got a lot of serious damage and you get a huge liability again. So it's really important to make sure and understand what you're going to be hauling. We all want to, I understand everybody wanting to go to work every day and wanting to earn a living, and I appreciate that and I respect everybody for wanting to do that. But you gotta, if you don't know what to put on, just be aware of what you're putting on. Like if you put electronics on, your cargo's going to go up. If you're not going to haul any electronics. If you're going to haul alcohol is like a big issue because why? Because it's a target for being theft. If you're going to haul shrimp, I have to tell the carrier that you're going to be hauling live shrimp. If you're hauling a live shrimp and all the shrimp die, there's a huge liability there as a loss to the cargo. So it's very important to tell me or tell whoever you're working with in the insurance industry what you're going to be hauling and to change it and don't put so many different things or variety of equipment on there. The second thing is, and we're going to talk about doing the MCS-150 filing, but things you want to do, some guys, they want to sit there, I'm going to have 5 trucks, so I'm going to put 5 trucks on my MC-150, but guess what? You just did your UCR, and you only have 1 truck. So guess what they're going to charge you for, right? They're going to charge you for the 5 trucks, because that's what he says he has.
Right, and that will be at the time that they renew. They renew their UCR, or if when they did their initial filing to get their DOT and MC number, if they put 5 trucks at that time, when they go to do the UCR, they will have to pay that bracket of where the 5 trucks fall in. But if they added those trucks later, after the fact, and they already did your UCR, they won't have to pay that fee until December when they renew. Right, when they renew.
Now, also, when you do make changes to your DOT, you're supposed to do those changes within 30 days of the change on your MCS-150. If you don't do that, it's just gonna open you up, make it harder for you to get insurance, because people are gonna wanna know, why's this truck on there? What's this truck doing? How many trucks do you have? And then, when you're doing interstate and you've got an MC number, technically, you're supposed to own all the trucks that are on there. So to get rid of a truck that you say you have, you're gonna have to show me proof, so I can go back to the carriers and show them that you really don't own that truck, or you never did own that truck, or that truck never existed. So it makes it a harder thing. It's best to say, if you got one truck, just put one truck. If you got two trucks, you got two trucks. But don't put any extra trucks on there. Everybody wants to grow like everybody else does. But as long as you do everything right, you will always keep a good compliance within your MCS-150. The other thing is too, we talked about mileage. I was talking to George about it. You'll see guys that got one truck, but they got 1 million miles on that 1 year. What happens, George, with that?
Yeah, so the problem is that if you're ever given an audit, or the best example I can give you is if you're trying to get insurance, most insurance companies and agents who are doing their diligence, they're going to ask you for not only the lost runs, but they're also going to ask you for the last year IFTA fuel tax filings. So they're going to look at the mileage you have on your MCS-150, and they're going to look at the mileage you've reported in your fuel taxes. And if that is wrong, now, maybe a couple miles here and there, it's not accurate, that's not really a big deal. But if they see that you put 1 million miles, and the last 4 quarters you filed 500,000 miles, well, then they're going to know that you're fluffing up the numbers, and they're going to want to know why, and that's going to look suspicious. Not that you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, but it just looks bad. And most people who are doing it are doing things bad. So you want to be very careful. And the right way would be to use the miles that you've been reporting on your IFTA fuel taxes. And if you don't file your own fuel taxes, then you can get that off the ELD. If the ELD is not yours, then you can request that mileage report for the last 4 quarters from the company that gave you the ELD, or whose ELD it belongs to. But very important that everything is consistent, especially when it comes to those miles.
How important is it to do IFTA reports? I actually have customers that don't do their IFTA reports, and when they do it, they're not accurate.
Yeah, no, you have to do them every quarter. I don't understand how anyone can not be doing it and running out there, because in order to get plates, your IFTA has to be in good standing. So if you're not filing it, that means your IFTA account could be suspended, and then you're not going to be able to get plates. So you have to file every quarter. Now, we have clients who come to us sometimes for not filing the last 2 quarters. When they go get plates, they can't get plates because their IFTA is suspended, and then they come to us and we help them, we fix them. But
are there fines involved with that?
Yeah.
If they don't.
Yeah. So if you don't pay and file before the so for example, the first quarter ends April, the last day of April, right?
It's the last day of
January,
March.
February, March. Okay, well, last day of March. The last day of April would be when you need to file or pay. You need to file or pay on or before the last day of April, your first quarter.
So they give you 30 days.
So they give you like a 30-day extension. So if you don't pay by then, you'll pay a $50 penalty off the bat. It's going to be $50 no matter what. And any interest for the state. So the states, they all charge an interest, and that gets all totaled up, plus whatever fuel tax you owe, if you owe fuel taxes. And then you have to pay that. Now, to go back a little bit, there are instances where a driver or owner operator does not have his own IFTA account, and he does not file his fuel taxes. The company he's running for is filing it for him. But still, very important, guys. When you want to get insurance, you're going to have to, and you should be requesting copies of your fuel tax filings, even if the company you're running under is filing them for you. You should always be requesting that, because that's going to let you know the miles that you've been driving, so you're able to give your insurance agent the correct amount of miles you've been driving. Because what you don't want to do is guess, because you're setting yourself up for possible issues.
What if you get caught? I've had a few insureds that didn't do them properly. They didn't do like a complete set, whichever way you want it.
Right.
They weren't clocking all the miles on there. They didn't do all the IFTA reports.
Right. I don't want to get too. Let's not get too into IFTA. That could be another episode. We'll get more into the IFTA and fuel tax. But to answer Harold's question, if you don't, so what is it? You're saying if you don't file?
Well, I've had a client that they filed the IFTA reports, but if you go, but I can see where you've been stopped at.
Yeah.
And I don't see you paying any taxes. Like if you're up in Washington State, you drove through it up to Seattle, you had to drive through it. There's a tax in there involved with you driving through that state.
Correct. So that should show up. Anytime you're filing them correctly, it's going to show up.
Right.
You know, we at HCM Integrity Services, we have software and a platform that, you know, we put in the data and it'll tell us, you know, it'll populate and calculate the taxes that you drive in. So yeah, that's a good point. Again, I don't want to get too far into that because it's a whole
we'll
get down like a rabbit. But just to clarify, what happens is any miles that you drive in any state, depending on that state's tax rate, is how they're gonna calculate the taxes you owe that state. So if you drive 1,000 miles in the state of Washington, their tax rate, whatever that is going to be those miles times that tax rate, and that's what you're going to owe that state. Now, if you put fuel in that state also, now it offsets the tax because now they're going to give you a break there because you filled up there. So there's a lot of little things that we can help a lot of you guys out there. If you ever have issues with fuel taxes, if you find yourself paying a lot of tax in one state, well, we can help you and we can tell you what you need to do to offset that. And maybe sometimes get a credit back. You know?
Well, I've talked to a few drivers that go to California. Of course, the fuel in California is very expensive.
Yeah.
And again, we don't want to get too deep into this, but they've gone into California, don't buy fuel, they come out. And they find out later on that it's actually less expensive for them to buy the fuel in California and then pay the IFTA instead of not buying any fuel at all.
So California is a great example, and so what a lot of guys that I know, what they do is they'll fill up their tank before they go to California because California is expensive. We all know that, but California, they're not a dumb state. They know people are doing that, and so if you go into their state and you're reporting miles and you didn't put any fuel, then they're going to tax you on those miles that you drove, and they have one of the highest tax rates. However, what I tell guys to do, a little trick for you guys out there, is don't fill up your tanks all the way before you go to Cali. When you go into Cali, put some fuel. Don't fill up your tanks in Cali because it's too expensive, but put some fuel in there. That way you can help offset that tax because California.
The tax is actually higher, right?
Yeah,
if you don't buy fuel.
Right. Most of our fuel taxes we do, when someone pays a lot of taxes in fuel tax, it's because of California.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Something else I want to bring up too, on the MCS-150, depending on the classification of vehicle you're putting in, will determine what the FMCS wants you to have for coverage for your insurance. So, for instance, vehicles under 10,000 pounds, 10,000 and below, only require $300,000. Tractor trailers, box trucks, things like that, hot shots, they're required to have 750. And then if you're hauling automobiles, they're required to have $1 million. And then you could be also required to have $1 million just because of some hazmat you may be carrying, or the less dangerous hazmat. The more dangerous the hazmat, of course, the higher the insurance is going to be. And then if you're going to be a bus, where you're busing human, passengers and stuff like that, your insurance can go up as $5 million per vehicle. So the point I want to make here is that a lot of people think to put the $1 million on the FMCSA is a good thing. The bad thing about it is when the insurance companies do their filings to the FMCSA, they usually only put what the minimum requirement is of the FMCSA. So if you're hauling general freight, you're only required to have $750,000 posted on it. If you put $1 million down and the insurance company puts in 750, the FMCSA is going to come in and shut your DOT down. Your MC number will lapse because you don't have enough coverage. So don't think because you want to show someone else that you got more money, because your certificate of insurance will show you exactly how much money or how much coverage you have. So it doesn't really matter on the FMCSA, it matters on the certificate of insurance when you're going to show brokers if you're going to pick up loads. So I want to make that clear. We had a situation a year back that someone did that. They put $1 million down, 750, and their MC number lapsed for 2 days. And guess what happens when it lapses for 2 days? You're a new venture all over again.
That's right. Well, I wanted to mention something though. What we tell a lot of our clients is, even though if they're hauling general freight and the FMCSA only requires a 750, to go ahead and get the $1 million anyway. Why? Because most brokers, if not all, will not give you a load unless you have $1 million on there. So they will check the FMCSA, and if the FMCSA only has 750 but the insurance has $1 million, some of them will not give you the load because they want to see it. They want to see everything consistent. They want to see it on the certificate, and they also want to see it on the FMCSA site. So that's just something for you to know, Harold, because I always try to push our clients to get the $1 million anyway. Even though sometimes, the FMCSA only requires 750, but and some agents will tell them too. I think you even tell them that, hey, you should probably get the $1 million anyway.
Well, what I usually suggest, and I don't get too much involved with putting people's DOTs together, that's of course your side of the field, but that requirement, that 750, doesn't mean you have to have 750. But majority of the insurance carriers really doesn't want to, if you're only required to have 750, the insurance carriers are only going to do a filing of 750.
Right. So but that's the thing. So there's like a clash of, and I understand it. I get it. And believe me, if it means I'm gonna pay a little less insurance, just having 750 versus $1 million, I'm all for it. But what happened is there's a clash because the brokers, they want $1 million, no matter what.
I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is, it's okay to have the 750 posted on the FMCSA. It's a certificate of insurance that we send out to the brokers because they're going to ask us, because they don't trust the truckers to produce their own.
Oh, no, yeah, I get.
And that $1 million is on the certificate of insurance, but on the FMCSA, on the MCS-150, you only want to put the 750.
So I get that, and I understand that. For me, we know that. You know that we're seasoned veterans in this business. We understand that. But what happens is there's some brokers out there, and I don't know if it's just they're new or there's just so much fraud going on that brokers are now doing a little extra stuff. And so some brokers are not getting set up with certain carriers because even though the certificate shows $1 million, which proves they have $1 million, I mean, what more proof you want, especially if you're getting it from the insurance company. But because the FMCSA doesn't show it, they don't want to give the carrier freight. Now, please comment anyone on there who's run into that issue, because there's a lot of guys that I know that call me and say, hey George, what's happening here? Why am I having this issue? Why, I have $1 million in coverage, but the FMCSA only shows 750 and the brokers don't want to do business with me. So anyone who's experienced that, please leave your comments below. We've been seeing that happen a lot, and I think it's just maybe the brokers you're working with are not experienced enough to realize that, hey, the certificate comes from the insurance company, he's got insurance. He's got the coverage.
You have to remember that we're licensed to do what we're doing. So for us to go out and send falsified documents out, I send you a certificate of insurance and I say, you got $1 million, you really got 750. I'm not sending it out because it affects a lot of things.
Yeah.
Plus, if I send a certificate out, like George said, I would say 99% of the brokers do require you to have $1 million worth of coverage. So I'm just saying, on the when you do it on the FMCSA, don't overclassify your vehicle, I guess. Is the point of class.
Right, yeah. Don't start putting general freight and this, that, and this, that, and you got all these checks there, and then first your insurance is probably going to be expensive just by doing that.
Usually I spend, when I get a new insured, I probably spend a good 30 minutes to an hour, just education, showing them why you shouldn't do that and the reasons why to do it. But I want to say one more thing, and I think we're going to wrap this up. I think we pretty much covered everything on that.
Yeah, well, I want a couple of things. So the MCS-150 Biennial Update, just so you guys are aware, it is mandatory for every 2 years. That's why they call it biennial. It's every other year, but it's 2 years. We recommend at least once a year, or like Harold said earlier, 30 days after there's been a change, which means you added a truck, you added a trailer. Why? Because that goes back to the insurance. The insurance company just added a truck. Now, a lot of insurance companies are going to want to see that consistency in your DOT. So if you got insurance on a truck and it's not reflected on your DOT, it could cause an issue. So you always want to update anytime there's changes to it, and usually it's 30 days. Now, you could wait the year and then wait till the end of the year and then do all your updates then. That's okay, but you should do it within 30 days after there's any changes. The other thing is, you're going to get a lot of solicitation telling you that you got to do your biennial update. You're going to get solicitations from a lot of companies who are just trying to get your money. They're going to try to scare you. They're going to use tactics that you're going to pay a $10,000 fine, this and that. There are some verbiage from the FMCSA that says you could get penalties and fines that way, but most of the time you're not going to get those penalties. Don't let those companies scare you. This is something you can do yourself. And so you know that the DOT biennial update, it goes by your last digit of your DOT number. I'll put the link where you can find that information at. So depending on the last number of your DOT and the second number next to the last will tell you if it's a year, even year or odd year when you have to do that update. Something you can do yourself. You don't got to pay nobody. If you're not familiar with it, you need some help, you can contact HCM Integrity. We can do it for you. We're probably one of the most fairest companies out there when it comes to prices. Just be careful with those guys out there soliciting. I've seen people pay $300 for something that you can do absolutely free. Don't let those guys trick you. So, MCS-150 Biennial Update every 2 years or every other year. You can do it once a year or 30 days after you get it.
You're required to do it every 30 days. Within 30 days.
With a change.
To your DOT. And as far as the last digit of your DOT number, it goes from 1 to 0. So there's only 10 numbers there. So when you do your update, it's either January to October.
Yep.
And then the second numbering, if it's odd, it's on the odd year you do it.
Yep.
If it's even, you do it on the even year. So that's how you can keep track of it. It's pretty simple. It's not rocket science, and if you have any questions, you can always link us, and we'll give you the answer again if you need an answer. Yeah. But on that note, I want to thank George for the time we spent picking his brain here, and we're going to end this podcast, and we want to wish everybody a good day and stay safe.
Stay safe, keep trucking. Shout out to the road warriors, all the men, women, cats, dogs out there on the road. We appreciate you. Please be safe. We're here to help you, and we're here to help you succeed in every way we can. Thank you.